There are some couples who try to avoid conflict, and actually that's not healthy. They sweep everything under the carpet. They are so super positive about everything. They laugh about it, they smile and all that. But actually, their marriages are kind of breaking up from within.
I'm Parkson, a father and grandfather, a relationship coach, and author of The Modern Day Dad.
And I'm Hafiz, a father of 4, a transformational coach, and a dad in progress.
We Are Dads Too is a podcast for fathers by fathers. Each week we have conversations about different aspects of fathering. We will also be talking with experts to get their opinions or have other dads join us too.
Because we are dads too, we understand the challenges dads face. Our children grow up way too fast, so we need to take effective action that involves personal and lasting change for our children and also for ourselves. Let's go on a transformational journey together because we are dads too.
Hey Hafiz.
Hey Parkson, how are you?
Yep, we are communicating, I hope.
Yes, we've been communicating.
I hope we will not have conflict.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Well, I hope. I said I hope. But as you know, communication, when people are communicating, because we are all imperfect communicators, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think that we know what we're saying. We hear the words, we form the words in our minds, and we utter the words. But we sometimes are not aware that there are emotions in us, and underlying, underneath the words are full of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And people, when they listen to us talk, the slight intonation, a change in the volume or the emphasis sends a different message, and that's how conflict arises.
Right. So I hope we can learn something today together.
Oh yeah, we should.
How we can avoid conflict. But when conflict happens, how we should manage them. How can we manage them in the best manner? So I want to give this analogy. All right, like a flooding area, because I work in Cambodia. Certain places are always flooding, and something you can learn from the Cambodians actually. When to prevent the flood, usually you put sandbags, you make some
build a wall.
a big wall near the river. So that is one way to prevent the flood from coming over to your house, right? But the other way is to build your house higher. So
yes.
most of the houses there, especially in those flood-prone area, they have stilts on stilts, right? 2, sometimes 3 meters high.
Wow, that's high.
Very high. So that's how sometimes the flood goes up too.
Okay.
And I use this energy because when we talk about conflict management, right, we really have to understand that we are trying to build houses high enough so that when there's flood coming in, we are not drowned and be in that kind of situation. So we have to be prepared. All right, we have to be prepared such that when conflict does happen, when arguments does happen, when problems crop up and you are emotionally stressed and everything comes into play, you are able to put aside the so-called troubled waters and let it pass under you instead of being drowned in it. And when you are drowned in something, usually you will not be able to be rational, and everything becomes very emotionally
charged. Yes.
And to solve conflict when you're emotional, there's no way you can solve anything when you're emotional.
You're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking at all. Actually, you're just driven by emotions. You use the word flooding, and actually that's a physiological condition, a state that many people get into. And it's called flooded, okay? And flooded describes the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for, among many things, emotional self-regulation. So when you get angry, when somebody says something insulting, offensive, or hurts you, you start to get angry and your heart rate begins to climb, goes to 80 beats per minute, 85, 90, 95. And that's the kind of the threshold for many people. When you exceed 95 beats per minute, at the same time, your body is releasing cortisol, adrenaline, and it starts to flood your brain,
Yeah.
all right, especially the thinking part of the brain. And when you cross the threshold of 95 beats per minute, you're considered flooded. And so when you see people flying into a rage, really losing control and being so angry, road rage, for example, they just get out of the car and beat up the other driver. And after that, all right, a few minutes or kind of a half an hour after that, when they're cooled down, and they will say something like, "Did I do that? That wasn't me, I wasn't thinking." And they're actually right. They were not thinking, they were just taken over by that anger. And so to prevent a conflict, especially one that is, or to prevent yourself from flying, off the handle and into a rage, is to be aware of your body condition, your heart rate, and how your body is responding. But I don't think, maybe it's not really totally possible to avoid conflicts, especially in marriage. We need to allow ourselves to be in the conflict, because after all, the two persons who are married together to each other are different, and therefore you will have disagreements, you have disputes, and we kind of use the word conflict to describe all of those. There are some couples who try to avoid conflict, and actually that's not healthy. They sweep everything under the carpet. They are so super positive about everything. They laugh about it, they smile and all that. But actually, their marriages are kind of breaking up from within.
Yeah, I suppose it's about building that flood, blocking things, whatever you call it, beside the river, or building that house higher than the flood. So you're right. Avoiding conflict is not the solution, especially if this it is about serious problems. These issues are not dealt with, and it will also mean that these problems will get bigger, and when it gets bigger, it's more difficult to control. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. So this is something that we want to avoid. And maybe we can also discuss today, and this is the context. We want to have clarity on what are the outcome that we want when we are resolving the conflict. All right, because in conflict, after there's a conflict, there's always anxiety. There's even we become detached. That's what we spoke in the previous episode, and then there's a bit of emotional withdrawal. And it may relate to that issue of divorce and marriage breakers that we spoke about a few episodes ago, and may even lead to unintended actions or behaviors like violence.
Oh yes.
And violence can be both. Can be physical violence, can be emotional violence. Abuse.
Yeah.
And these are the things that you want to. Is a no-no, all right? Because when we talk about the marriage breakers, why we talk about it first? Because we want to avoid those things. We should not even approach anything near those things.
That's right.
All right. And now we are discussing what are the things that we can do, all right, ahead of those things to make sure that we don't even go near the marriage breakers. And therefore, when we have conflict, like many things, right? Doesn't mean it's bad. Conflict is there for a reason.
That's right.
It's because if things have reached a certain stage where it needs some new way of looking at things, we need to, we have differences, and therefore we need to align such that we can move forward. So conflict is not bad. In fact, conflict is good if you are able to understand, be aware, and then come up with the right approach to resolve it. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. John Gottman says that couples should not be afraid of conflict. In fact, every conflict is an opportunity for them to know each other better and love one another more. Okay? Because through conflict, you really see the difference between the two of you. You begin, and if you have the right attitude of appreciating, rather than comparing and competing, who's right and who's wrong, but you begin to really see, okay, this is where we are different, and we appreciate the difference, and we begin to understand each other. So conflict is a good opportunity for couples to know each other. Now, he also says that there are two different kinds of conflicts, generally speaking. One is what he calls the solvable ones, all right? And these are usually more of the situational kind, like, all right, what are we going to have for lunch? So the guy says,
even that can cause a lot of conflict sometimes.
It is a conflict. It is a conflict, but it is a solvable one.
Yeah.
So the guy says, I want McDonald's. The girl says, I want pizza.
Right.
Okay. So how do you solve that conflict or that disagreement, that mismatch? So many people will immediately think of compromise.
Mhm.
Okay. Now there are a few ways to compromise. Well, they might agree that, okay, today we will have McDonald's. We'll go with the guy, with McDonald's. The next time we'll go and have pizza. All right, that's a compromise. Okay, so it's win-win. But today, someone wins and the other one loses.
Yeah.
The next time, one wins again and the other one loses.
Yeah.
Okay, so compromise is not always a win-win situation like
Yes.
many people think. More often than not, it is a win-lose situation, or worst case scenario, lose-lose.
Yeah.
For example, okay, let's not have McDonald's or pizza. Let's go for fishball noodles. But very thankfully today we have the food delivery services. So you can call, whatever Food Panda, Deliveroo, or whatever your
Yeah.
food delivery vendor is, and it says, okay, get me McDonald's
match, huh?
and then get me pizza. So
Yeah.
today these kind of things are easily solved. So
Mm.
but 69% of conflicts that couples have are of the other kind,
Mm.
the unsolvable ones, the perpetual ones. And these are perpetual because they have it's something to do with personality.
Mhm.
And personality doesn't change very quickly. It
Mhm.
doesn't change often.
Mhm.
It has to do with your upbringing. It has to do with your belief system, your convictions, your values, and therefore these things are not easily solved. Okay. And therefore they keep popping up again and again. And sometimes, one or both couples can get very tired and says, oh, I thought we talked about this already, how come we're always bringing this up?
Mhm.
Okay. And stonewalling can happen. So that is the more crucial type of conflicts that couples need to learn to manage. Now, because they are hard to solve,
Mhm.
so couples should not need to manage their expectations and not think about solving them, but just managing them. Okay, because they are hard to solve. So you need to manage them, and what we need to get to is not about just finally resolving it and says, okay, we will not need to talk about this again. Okay. Now, I'll give you one example. All right, one couple who were going to get married. Okay, uh, the husband the boyfriend was telling the girl, right, when we get married and we have our own home, my mother is coming to live with us.
Mm. Oh, sensitive me.
Oh
Sensitive.
yes. And the girl, you know what the girl said? Now this is direct quotation. Over my dead body.
Wow. Non-compromise, huh?
Non-compromise. All right, very strong reaction. Over my dead body.
Yeah.
And they tried talking about this over and over and over again, and they just could not get to the bottom of it. Until a mutual friend of theirs came in and had dinner with them, and he began to, probe and all that. Now, he's a skilled mediator, okay? And so he knows the right questions to ask. And finally, he was able to get the girl to, to reveal something that happened during her younger days, okay? See, what happened in her home is that, her mother likes to keep the house very tidy. And so she's constantly cleaning and throwing things away. And the mother would go into her room and clean up the room, move things around, and throw things away without telling her, without her permission. So when she comes home, she would find things moved and find things missing, and she would ask the mother, did you throw this away? And she got very angry. And in her mind, in her heart, she says to herself, when I get married, I want to have my own home and I want to have my own privacy. This will never happen to me again. So what is the moral of this story is that many of us have our dreams. And our dreams may come from what happened to us during our childhood or growing up years. And so, and sometimes we forget. And so these dreams, when we feel that our dreams are under threat, oh, I'm not going to be able to fulfill my dream, that's where the reaction comes. You see? And so, and if we are not open about it, that's where this conflict continues and perpetual and becomes, ends in a gridlock. Now, so what the other spouse needs to do, and what both spouses actually need to do, is what John Gottman says: become a dream detective. Okay, so when one partner has very strong opinions or a position about certain thing, okay, another couple I know, okay, the wife says no junk food, no McDonald's, absolutely no. And the husband says, but the children like it.
Okay.
How about once in a while? No.
Okay.
So what do? You know? So I told the husband, well, it's always good. This question is a very good question. Try to ask as often as you can, why is this so important to you? Why is this so important to you? And then they will begin to reveal. I mean, give it time, be patient. They will reveal to you why this is important. And it's beyond facts, okay? I mean, this husband actually went to do some research and, to build a case to show the wife that, well, McDonald's may be unhealthy food, it may be junk food, but not that bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes facts help, but sometimes you just miss the point if you're just presenting facts.
Yeah. Oh, wow, there's a lot in there. So you're talking about not having assumption, whenever you are speaking to your spouse, for example. I mean, you're talking about family of origin here. I mean, the wife had issues which are unresolved.
That's
right, for so long, and there's no way, as you said, you can resolve that. But if you ask the right question, you don't assume, you begin to understand why. And when you understand why, to me, whether it becomes a different level, really.
That's right.
It's no longer the issue of whether your mom stays with you or not. All right, it's a deeper issue about what is it? It's about you want to achieve your ideal, all right, home and situation, and many ways to serve that. And if other needs are being fulfilled, or that issue is being, you can overcome that issue with other means, other ways, and only that you can even now speak to your, the mother-in-law and so on, for her to be careful, all right, not into. Now you understand already the situation, not to go there, all right. So things will be much clearer.
That's right.
If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't get things cleared up, you don't get clarity. And that's as always, things are muddled up. Things are always based on assumptions, based on judgments, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So what happened to this girl, if I may continue the story? So, when this came out to the open, and the boyfriend, I mean, his eyes were open and he says, oh, I see. Now I really understand. You see, so what this girl really needed was understanding, empathy and alliance, as I mentioned in the last episode, that, I'm on your side, okay, so I really hear you. I totally understand. I empathize with you. Okay, so now let's see what we can do about it. Then later on, he began to assure the girlfriend, fiance, and says, maybe you're projecting your mother into my mother, but you know my mother, and she's not like that. She probably will unlikely to do anything like what your mother did. So can you be assured, can you have the assurance that, that this will not happen, and therefore you have no reason to fear by projecting it into the future. So all this, see, what we all need finally is to be heard, to be understood, to be, to have empathy, and most of the problem is solved. And therefore, what John Gottman said is very true. Every conflict is an opportunity for the couple to know each other better and love one another more.
Yeah, I also observed that in that situation, you begin to identify not only what the underlying issues are, right, but you are able to size it up. Because, for example, I want my mom to stay here. Oh, it's a long-term thing. All right. I mean, years. How can I, so all the fears start becoming really, really real. So knowing that, instead of saying, oh, she should stay here, maybe try it for a week. Try it for, for a while, for a few days. That will relieve her of that fear. And I think this applies for many other things that we want to do. Sometimes we are wanting to rush things because we think that is what we want, but other people cannot take it.
That's right.
So if you understand the other person better, we will not suggest that. We will first give the other person bits and pieces that they can bear, and that will relieve a lot of stress, a lot of fear, and we can avoid the conflict situation there.
Yep.
Right. And I thought the other one that really I observe even in myself whenever we are trying to discuss on big issues or what is sometimes anger, creeps in. Right, and there's no way that when you're angry you can resolve anything. So it's important for us to withdraw a bit, exit for a while. When you exit, do not sometimes in the heat of the moment, sometimes we or anyone want to leave the house. That's a no. All right, go to your room. You need some space to calm down, but do not give the signal that you are abandoning the problem. You don't want to talk about it. All right, because that already
that's
set
stonewalling already.
Yeah, and that starts this thing about whatever you try to do after that. That memory of or that perception of the other partner thinking that you think that it's not important.
That's right.
And you are abandoning me, you're abandoning the problem, and you don't care. And all these things become, very...
That's a new problem now.
Yeah, it blown out of proportion. And for you to, after you've cooled down, you should re-enter again. You should come back again. And before that, don't straight away go into the topic. This is where sometimes you want to rush into solving a problem or issues. Test water first. Add a bit of humor. Sometimes do the what I was thinking just now. Physical touch. Sometimes it helps. To relieve some stress. And to me, sometimes just good actions cannot beat. All right, anything else.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that maybe I'm just cheating. I'm just pretending. Trying to make her happy or make him happy. But don't worry. From my experience, whatever good thing that you do, even though the immediate reaction is not good, it will remain there and will have effects later.
Yep, correct. Little things matter. All the little gestures matter, but at the right time. Because touching, for example, if you try to touch your wife when you're in a heated argument, she'll say, "Don't touch me."
Yeah, of course, that's not the right.
And that's not the right time. You get bitten. It's like touching an angry cat.
Are you beating me? That's physical. I'll sue you.
Yeah, so choose the right time, please. Yeah, what you say, time out. Time out is definitely an effective thing. And John Gottman recommends 20 minutes. 20 minutes is long enough for all the adrenaline and cortisol that is in your blood system to be reabsorbed by the body, And so when you come back to discuss that same issue again, it would be almost like you have never talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's a clean slate, and now your brain is fully engaged, especially the thinking part of the brain. Now you can have a reasonable, rational, and calm conversation together. Now, the skill that couples need to learn how to do this is also very important. I mean, if you just imagine, all right, you started the conversation and then it slowly gets hotter and hotter and hotter. Now, you need to have that self-awareness and you need to be really attentive to know, okay, things are escalating. So the couple can have an agreement, okay, of course, before all this happens. We're going to give each other a secret sign, a secret code, okay? It could be a word, it could be a hand signal, it could be, a wink of an eye or something, to signal to one another, all right? We need to take a break, okay? Now, there's this very interesting story which was shared with us. It's a real story. So this couple, there's this couple, and so you know what their secret code is? When they see that their conversation, their discussion is getting a bit heated, and they're not going anywhere, and if you just continue, it's going to blow up. The husband will look at the wife and says, and this is in America. So in America, they wear shoes even at home. Okay. The husband will look at the wife and look at the feet, and say, "Oh, those are lovely shoes."
Okay, there must be some reason why that works.
No, that's just the agreed signal. I mean, they have talked about it before.
No, that's breaking the ice, right? Or something like that.
Kind of. Yeah, it's kind of breaking the ice. It's kind of, breaking the momentum so that the argument doesn't escalate any further. All right, and because it's humor, okay, it really it just puts out the fire quite quickly. And it's a signal to them that, look, we are going into dangerous territory. We need to stop right now. You see? So couples, they can think of anything, funny things, hand signals, a word, and things like that. So they just need to agree on it. Okay. Now imagine if this couple did not talk about it before and did not agree on it, and then the husband in the middle of that serious discussion
Say the same thing.
say lovely shoes. You know what the wife would say?
Yeah.
Don't change the subject.
Yeah, okay, yes.
You're changing the subject. You're trying to avoid this important issue. Let's solve it. Yeah, so it's important to talk about it before, during peacetime, talk about it, agree on it, and then start to practice it.
I thought these so-called rules of engagement is very important.
That's right.
I mean, there are many probably, and for different couples, different way. But one I thought is useful for me at least, although it doesn't always work. Have this agreement not to argue inside a bedroom, because in the bedroom is where nice things supposed to happen. I mean, that's your last bastion, of it should be
sanctuary.
Sanctuary. It should be, and have that rule. And because sometimes you want to stop things away from your kids. You think that there's the best place, but sometimes if you try to do that too much, you cannot relate. The emotions, the body sometimes cannot relate. When you want to have your intimacy time, those things become the memories start starting together.
Okay.
And it does affect, to me, because
it can,
the sights, the sound, everything, the space will have an emotional effect on you. So that's an example. So it may not work for everyone, but I thought that is one example that we can have. And using the word, phrase, sometimes a bit of humor at the right time, at the right place.
Right time. Yes.
Don't do it wrongly. Also may help. Yeah.
Now, for guys, I really want to share this. We use the word conflict to kind of cover a lot of things. It covers disagreements, disputes, all kinds of things. We just lump it into one basket called conflicts. But actually, conflicts is more than just disagreement. Disagreement is a disagreement. Disputes are disputes. Conflict is something even more than that. Conflict is a situation where one person, of course, involves two people, maybe more, but at least one of them, feels that my will has been taken away from me, or my freedom to exercise my will and to fulfill my will is been taken away. It's a sense of powerlessness, all right? The other person has taken my power away. Okay? Like employee-employer. When the employer makes a certain decision, sometimes employees will feel, wow, they're taking my rights away, taking my privilege away, and things like that. And that is a conflict. It's not just a disagreement,
right?
It's a conflict. Now, this can happen in a marriage where one partner, just give you an example. In many couples, the man sees themselves as the final decision maker. All right? The buck stops here. Okay? You're talking about responsibility. But decision making can be shared. Okay? But some men have been brought up or have this mindset that, I make the final decision and whatever I decide, my wife should submit and follow. Now, that can be problematic because, the wives, who are also human, all right, and today women are more liberated and more, independent thinking, they want to share in the decision making as well as responsibility and authority. And they might feel, and naturally they will feel that their power has been taken away. So, in a conflict, or to avoid this conflict situation, I would advise men to share power. To share power with their spouses, to share power with their wives. And how they do that? Very simply, to be open to their wife's input, all right? And not just input, because when you say input, it's like, okay, tell me your point of view. All right, I've heard your point of view. Now I make the decision.
No, still a no.
Yeah, still a no.
Decision made already.
Correct,
Okay.
So
what shall it be? Not input,
it's
but
not just getting input, it's accepting your wife's or your spouse's influence. Okay? That means don't just listen and say in your mind while you're listening, I'm still right. Okay? But accept their influence and says, okay, All right, I'm willing to go along with what you say. Okay, and if anything goes wrong after you have made the decision, okay, and accepting your wife's influence, anything goes wrong, don't say, you see, it was your decision.
Yeah.
You know, it's a joint decision.
So that word joint decision. So instead of compromise, somebody lose, somebody win, or even sometimes both lose, is collaborate, right?
Correct.
To cooperate,
That's a good
collaborate,
word.
and come up with solution that both own, both are responsible. It's our solution. So I was thinking of one method or one technique. All right, to so-called, we will have my way, your way,
Or the highway.
or the highway. So it shouldn't be that, right? All right, it should be our way. So there must be an agreement, a list of things. Okay, this is your way. You like, the shoes you put this way. I like to put it that way. What is our way? Agree to disagree. Even though you don't get your way, but at least if you want peace, you want happiness, subscribe to the our way.
Or you can have two different shoe racks. One for the wife, one for the husband.
Well, you can afford it, the space and so on. Why not, right?
So let's end this for now, and we hope we hear you again, and then we get the rest of the audience be with us in the next episode.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye for now.
This podcast is brought to you by Iman Catalyst Community, which is missioned to elevate hope by transforming lives through social education initiatives as well as personal development programs. We are the medium that come in between NGOs and their beneficiaries to enhance their sustainability and impact. If you'd like to know more, connect, and collaborate with us, you can reach us at Facebook and Instagram at Iman Catalyst. That's spelled EMAAN. And we would like to work and partner with you.
Thank you so much for tuning to this week's conversation. We hope that this episode helped you in your transformational journey as dads. If you like this podcast, make sure you review, follow, and share it with your friends. For more episodes and resources on fathering, check us out at We Are Dads Too on Facebook and Instagram.
We would also like to hear your comments and questions, so please feel free to share them on our FB and IG pages and also our Twitter, and be connected to other dads too. Until next time, let's take the next step to be the special dad we are meant to be. Take care and stay safe.